Let's go to House of Delegates member, Republican, 82nd District, Virginia Beach, Jason Miyares. Hey, Jason, good to have you on, man.
Hey, John, how you doing?
Good, man. I've never been better, and always excited to have you on. We got a lot of issues going on in the House of Delegates right now, but I got to get to this Ticketmaster monopoly issue that is driving me absolutely bananas. And I went to the hearing. This is basically House of Delegates Dave Albo's bill. And what he says is, if you're buying a ticket online and you're paying the money for the venue, whether it be a concert, a football game, baseball game, basketball game, whatever, you own the ticket, and you should have a right to say, I want a paper ticket that I can then transfer, give away in a charity, give to my son or daughter, my neighbor, whatever. What Ticketmaster is trying to do, which is the monopoly along with Live Nation, same company, is saying, no, you can't transfer it. You have to buy it. You have to show ID to get in. You have to show the electronic version of it. You have to have a license, credit card, etc. And if you can't go, you can't give it away. You have to then sell it back to us, and then we can sell it on your behalf. But basically, we're going to take 20% out so we can line our pockets. So you can't go to StubHub or to any other reseller. And this is a monopoly company trying to take away the property rights of the ticket that you own, like you were buying an airline ticket. And the fact that, Jason, what drove me nuts is at the Commerce and Labor Department, the hearing, there were 8 Republicans who voted with the monopoly. And it's like, do Republicans understand why they can't get millennials on their side? This is just absurd.
This is what happens so often with big corporations, where they try to use regulation to stifle the free market and to stifle competitors. So Ticketmaster is trying to, and you hit the nail on the head, they are trying to basically funnel everybody that wants to sell a ticket, essentially going back to them, where they have a monopoly on a secondary market. And listen, I spoke out on the House floor on behalf of Dave Albo's bill, using a story that just happened to me recently, where U2 has long been my favorite band. They're coming to D.C. I was able to get 2 tickets for my wife. I'm a really lucky guy where my daughters are at an age where they still think their dad's music is cool. My oldest daughter, who's 10, wanted to go. I couldn't get the tickets then, but I had a dear friend out west that said, "Hey, I can buy the ticket. I'm a member of the fan club. I can buy the ticket, and you just pay me the wholesale value." Great. So I thought, and I was able to tell my daughter, "Hey, yeah, you're going to be able to see U2 with mommy and daddy." And then I get the phone call. Guess what? Ticketmaster's put restrictions that would say that there's no way I can transfer the ticket. I would have to physically fly out there and be there at the concert. Obviously, he's not going to do that. And I had to do what every father regrets, which is I had to disappoint my daughter and say, no, you can't go. And it just really goes to the heart of what the free market is, which is allowing natural competition. I have paid for this item. I should have the ability of keeping it, selling it to my friend. I have actually used StubHub before on tickets I bought for different concerts where I haven't been able to go because of just different commitments. And so I thought it was a pretty outrageous move. And, a lot of people play lip service to the free market, but this is a great example, I think, of us being able to stand up and champion the free market and champion the people that are really getting hurt by this. So I'm there with you.
And look, the other thing with it is not only, so everybody understands, Ticketmaster and Live Nation merged. So they're the same company, and they control 70%, 72% to be exact, of the ticket issuing market, right? So now what they're trying to do is dominate the resale market by making you go back through them, paying the 20%, and they dictate the terms. Now, they're in bed with the venue owners, like, here, let me give you an example. Dan Snyder, Washington Redskins. Anybody buys a ticket to a Redskins game, it's a lot of money, couple of $100. If you can't go, same thing. You can't give it away. You can't transfer it to somebody else. You have to go back through the Redskins, who then charge you who want to charge you then 20% to resell it back, and then they sell it to whoever they please, hopefully for a higher amount. I mean, this is ridiculous. You buy the ticket, you own it. I mean, isn't this just an issue, Jason, of pure property rights?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is. I mean, once you buy an item and you have that item, you should have the right to either give it to I mean, listen, even if somebody wanted to, I'll give an example. Even if I bought you 2 tickets, or say in my situation, my friend out west bought the ticket and said, I want to just give it to you, I want to give it to your daughter as a gift. He's known her his whole life. She would not be able to accept it as a gift because he would have to literally fly across the country and be there to transfer it. So you're exactly right. It's a property rights issue. It's a free market issue. It is a way that Ticketmaster is trying to use the power of the state and the power of government to, stomp out secondary markets. And listen, I remember a college buddy of mine that worked at Mother's Records, which was a Ticketmaster outlet. That's one of the ways he helped pay for college. He would find a couple concerts, he'd buy it out of his own money, and then the day of the concert, he would be on the street and he'd sell them. And quite frankly, he made some good money. That is about as pure free market as you can get. And I think you're exactly right. It's a property rights issue, and I think it's a free market issue as well.
You know what? It's outrageous. And again, I'm not going to call anybody out, but the fact that 8 Republicans in that committee voted in favor of the monopolists is beyond me. And you guys wonder why you can't attract millenniums to the GOP. This is a reason why. And I'll tell you the other thing. I went to the hearing, all right? And so Ticketmaster and Live Nation is represented by high-priced lawyers from a lobbying firm. I mean, right there, what does that tell you? I mean, I just couldn't believe it. And then they bring people up that were basically shills in the whole thing. And then what they tried to do was say, well, the real reason we're doing this is to stop the foreign companies, the bots, from buying all this stuff. Well, we already have a federal law there. I mean, the whole thing was just, it was so staged. And, Republicans have to understand, if they're going to attract young people to the party, these are the kinds of issues they should be 100% in favor of. Instead, what we had at the meeting was all the Democrats voted in favor of Albo, and we had amazing. 8 Republicans voting no.
That's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. I mean,
that's unbelievable.
It's
and quite frankly, that's what gets voters so frustrated.
Yes.
They play lip service to the free market. And you hit the nail on the head, too, I think, about where millennial voters are, and increasingly all Americans. In commerce, we want choice.
Right.
We want freedom of movement.
Right.
We want convenience. I mean, if you look at just survey data of just consumers, increasingly, it's part of the reason why Amazon.com has gotten to where it is people want flexibility. Time is very important to them. They want convenience. And so all of those factors are wrapped into this issue, as well as just the general free market and property values. So, we should be the ones championing it. And listen, I know in my hometown that the Virginia Beach Amphitheater apparently supports this bill. And so I know there's some people that have, on the opposite side of that, and I'll probably catch some grief. But my general feeling is this goes to the heart of the free market. If I purchase this and I decide I want to either sell on the secondary market or just give it away as a gift, I should have that right and not have it dictated to me by, a big, huge corporation somewhere.
Especially a monopoly, which is all this is.
Right.
And anybody that was there saw through their argument. It was so ridiculous. But look, I mean, you got people buying into it. How you could be siding with the monopolist over people just trying to buy a ticket and give it to their daughters beyond me. All right, I have some other stuff I want to get your opinion on. There's several Virginia bills now formulating around that would end license suspension for misdemeanor marijuana possession. The idea being that you get stopped for marijuana possession, it's bad things happen, right? It's not legal, we understand that. But then when you get an automatic driver's license suspension for 6 months, people can't go to work. Then what happens is they drive on a suspended license. It gets worse. How do you stand on it, and why?
I would lean to some type of reform. I think in general, we have a real big problem in Virginia with how we generally suspend driver's license. Not just that, for failure to pay pay court costs. You learn a lot when I walked my district, met so many people, and met an individual that literally rolled a stop sign, didn't make court, forgot to pay the fines, had her license suspended, got stopped in a separate instance, got arrested, and it just ballooned from there where she was a situation where she had thousands upon thousands of dollars of court fines. Her license was suspended. She was taking care of her mother, had Alzheimer's, and it just became an administrative nightmare. And so the term I've used actually for a lot of these court costs, for a lot of these individuals that simply, I use the term debtor's prison. You have some individuals that are really struggling financially. They go to court, say it's something like rolling a stop sign. Their driver's license has been suspended, and it's only suspended because they can't pay their court fine. So I think it needs to be reformed. I think there's a lot of movement in that area for reform. I'm not on the Courts of Justice Criminal Subcommittee, so that tends to be where a lot of these areas, reformation areas, tend to all die, to be quite frank with you. But yeah, I think you probably need some type of reform initiative, particularly if it's something where the person doesn't have a prior, and what are the circumstances of the stop. I would have to look a little bit of the actual language of the bill of what it specifically says, and I have not looked at it yet. So.
Well, look, I look forward to your weighing in on it. Delegate Miyares, and by the way, I love how you framed it, calling it a debtor's prison, because that's really what these fees are. It's a debtor's prison, and I think we outlawed debtor's prison back in the 1800s, so I think you're right there. Okay, after Tim Kaine's VP run, the House passed a bill basically saying if we have an opening in the United States Senate, not the state Senate, we already have that now, in the United States Senate, that the governor, regardless of who it is, Republican or Democrat, doesn't get to pick who the successor is, that you have to have a special election. That got through 64-32, basically with Republicans backing. That, for the average person on the street, that makes sense. The governor shouldn't have the power to just put somebody in the U.S. Senate, regardless of who it is, right? How do you stand on that?
Absolutely. Every other office, you have to have essentially a special election. It's only for the Senate, whereas it's currently constituted now, the governor has this appointment power. And as a general rule, that we should not treat a United States senator different than we would treat. The governor does have a right to appoint a congressman or a member of the General Assembly if they fall ill or they have to resign their office. So yeah, absolutely, it's a common sense piece of legislation. Unfortunately, there's a lot of common sense bills that get to the governor's desk that I suspect he will veto. My suspicion is he will veto this legislation as well. But yeah, it's a smart, common sense bill.
Okay, two senators, Senate Majority Leader Tommy Norment and Senate Leader Bill Stanley from Franklin, Virginia, going bananas over these Airbnb rentals. Let's get your take on that. They want to have stiff fines, and they're saying, look, the problem with Airbnb is they don't play by the rules. They advertise in areas where they're not sanctioned. They're not paying taxes. People that rent out their homes, they're not being held to the same standard as people that franchise hotels. On the other hand, like you said, it is kind of free market, but Stanley and Tommy Norman saying everybody's got to play by the same rules. How about you?
Well, listen, I live a little bit in daytime compartments right here, so February 8th is crossover, so I'm completely focused on the 1,000-plus House bills that we're struggling with. I've heard that they have some Airbnb bills. They will probably get over in the Senate and the House sometime after February 8th. So I want to give that caveat. I have not looked at them yet. They're coming my way. I do think there's two principles that you have to balance. One, you have to balance the free market principle, which is Airbnb is already the largest hotel chain in the world. Uber is already the largest taxi company in the world. So there is clearly a demand on this. It's kind of the new economy is a term I phrase, which goes back to my original points of flexibility, convenience, and consumer choice. So you want to make sure the new economy has a room to grow. There's actually a third point. There's also obviously the point of we believe in a fair playing field, and I absolutely get that. That's a great reason. There's a third reason that isn't always as discussed, which is, I'm a former prosecutor. I've talked to several individuals in law enforcement of instances have happened actually back home in Virginia Beach of Airbnb right now is a very, very popular tool by those in the criminal underworld, both in sex trafficking and in drug dealing. It's an easy way to get something reserved quick. You're in, you're out, and literally they're using it for criminal enterprises. So I think there's a third component, which is a public safety component of individuals. Actually, it happened in my district where you had a raid on an Airbnb that literally were using it on a sex trafficking situation. So that's a third component of making sure the localities are also aware of the properties that are being used in that capacity. So I will look at those bills when they get over. I think you have to balance all of those, the new economy, consumer choice, free market. Obviously, you get the level playing field issue, and then you also have the public safety issue. We'll figure it out. I mean, I'm pretty confident. I'm pretty confident on that issue. We'll probably get something that everybody can live with and is agreeable and keeps that alive and going while at the same time meeting some of these other concerns.
Okay, I've got 2 minutes. House of Delegates member Jason Miyares, 82nd District, Virginia Beach. What are your top priorities?
Well, I'm a big believer that one of the biggest things hurting businesses today is the regulatory state. Obviously, taxes aren't of itself, but I think sometimes as Republicans and conservatives, we lose track. The regulations really can strangle particularly our small business owners. So I actually have a bill right now that's going to be heard in a week that essentially say all regulations coming out of DPOR have an automatic 5-year sunset provision. And then in year 4, they are required to report back to the General Assembly, the governor, and the Joint Commission on Administrative Rules, what is the fiscal impact this regulation is having on our small business owners? Is their ability to do it cheaper? Is it redundant? And if they can't justify it, then the Joint Commission on Administrative Rules, as currently has the power to phase it out. So it is mirrored on some called the RAIN Act on the federal level, tackling federal regulation. And I love to take great ideas of trying to push back a little bit on how massive the regulatory state has gone. I'm trying to bring it to Virginia. It's going to be heard this week. I've gotten some positive feedback from my colleagues. We'll see what happens in committee, but that's right now my focus. And then I have a constitutional amendment that is going to be probably on the ballot this fall, protecting the widows of those that have been killed in combat, our Gold Star families, on protecting them from having to pay the property taxes on their house. So those, just in a quick 2 minutes, those are kind of the 2 quick things I'm working on right now. Okay,
and we appreciate your working on them, certainly for our Gold Star families that's lost a loved one defending the United States. And look, anything you can do to decrease the regulatory demands on anybody with a small business or any business in Virginia, I applaud that. Governor's race, who's going to be the nominee on the Republican side?
Oh, gosh. Well, Frank Wagner is a friend. I've known him a long time, but I didn't know he was running. I promised Ed Gillespie I would be supporting him. I think Ed's a great guy. I think we have a great field, but I'm with Ed Gillespie. I think the Democrats are going to be in a dogfight. I think Perriello is going to surprise a lot of people. He's going to play a lot to, I think, the Bernie Sanders crowd, which is increasingly a huge block of voters in the Democratic base. And so I think a lot of people that are saying that Northam has the Democratic nomination wrapped up, I don't buy that. I think Perriello is going to be a very, very serious challenger. I put that race as a toss-up.
All right. Jason Miyares says Perriello, Ralph Northam, Democratic side, a toss-up. I think you and I are the only 2 people in Virginia saying that. I think that's going to be very, very close. So we'll see how it plays out. Republican side, no question, Ed Gillespie, the prohibitive favorite to win that right now. We'll see if anything changes. We're out of time. I want to thank House of Delegates member Jason Miyares for being with us. He represents the 82nd District. That is Virginia Beach, and he is a Republican. Okay, Delegate Miyares, thanks for being with us. We're going to follow your constitutional amendment and your other stuff, and we'll be back at you. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, John.